Hello and welcome to Let's Talk About, a series spotlighting leaders, authors, artists, marketers, creators, and entrepreneurs sharing tips and expert advice on business, media, technology, and frankly, life itself. I'm your humble host, Cynthia Nelson, three-time entrepreneur, Forbes contributor, investor, and advisor. Today, we're talking to Cat Holt, CEO of Coologee. Cat, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Cynthia. It's a delight to be here, and I can't wait to have this conversation.
Well, we're going to dive right into a subject that has come up in the last couple of weeks about reinventing legacy without losing soul. I think we can all talk about and we've seen it in the press, the Cracker Barrel debacle. You know, you've gone through this with Prudential, Credit Acceptance, Duncan, Liberty Mutual, Berkeley. Like, how do you decide what heritage to preserve and what to modernize without screwing up what they just screwed up? Or did they screw up? I mean, let's be honest.
Well, given the fact that I think they lost their valuation by $100 million in one day, I think that might be
Yeah.
a good indicator that there was a mistake. What I'm finding right now is that the generation of marketers that are out there really grew up in a digital direct marketing world where performance marketing and investment in marketing has to be realized within a calendar year at the longest. And that means that people are not being trained in the basics about brand management. When you have something like a Cracker Barrel, which has been a beloved institution for a very long time, where you have people going to celebrate family moments, highlights, being able to hang out with their friends, that brand means something to people much more than what a brand manager can control. And I think that the biggest challenge that we all have as marketers is understanding what is it that gets the heart beating from the folks that are engaging with our brands that we don't want to go away from. But then how do we translate that so it's actually relevant today? And I think that the biggest place that they missed the mark is that they went too far to a modernization and they lost their heart and their soul. When you are doing rebranding, you can't leave the core customers behind. You have to keep them there and happy. But we all know that core customers aren't going to be the future of growth. And so understanding what is it about a position? So Cracker Barrel, for example,
Yeah.
having that root and that old time harm, like the country store kind of
Mm-hmm.
appeal, that still appeals to younger generations.
Mm-hmm.
It's just being expressed differently, right? And so I think that if they had taken time to really understand the cultural touch points of what does a modern country store look like today, there could have been a transition that brought everybody along and got everybody excited. Hard rights aren't good for any established brand, especially one where you have to think about same store sales and check valuations. And if you leave people behind, you're not going to accomplish your growth goals.
I mean, you've written about this too. And, you know, when you go in to look at a brand modernizing and you're taking these, can you show me or tell me any examples
Sure.
where you've done it successfully? And maybe the challenge is kind of internally of making those changes too, because not always customers who don't like it. A lot of times internal folks are not always super happy about it either.
It's true. I think when a company says I want to rebrand, though, the executive leadership is there. Especially if you're going to put the investment that Cracker Barrel actually put into it. So I'm not sure it's buy-in at that point. And that can be a whole nother conversation. But I think
Mm,
when you get to the point of, hey, we need to refresh the brand, we have to get people interested and excited about it. The question is in what way and how. And I
mm,
think that there are two things that I've been seeing. One is oftentimes people, companies, marketers go to branding companies for this,
mm-hmm,
who are usually staffed with incredibly talented creatives that
mm-hmm,
understand fonts and color palettes and
mm-hmm.
design. And because there's still this legacy of a brand is my logo, they haven't done everything else that they need to do to understand that brand is an experience, brand is a promise, brand is a feeling you get, and that brand is not in our control as marketers. All we can do is nurture it along. So I had a similar experience actually back during the '08 recession. So I'm showing my age now.
Mm-hmm.
And my client was 99 Restaurants. So it's a
Mm-hmm.
very, very large fast casual dining establishment in the Northeast here in the US.
Mhm.
And what happened was pretty much a business strategy at the crossroads. Prior to the market correction, they were going after what we call the dinks, the dual income, no kids.
Mhm.
Why? Because they had free time, they had disposable income. We found that they were coming to 99 as an after hour and to celebrate with their friends or to hang up and make connections. So the entire business strategy was starting to shift towards getting more bar space. So we were putting more of that footprint towards the bar. We were looking at offers like the happy hour
Mhm.
offers, events like that would get people wanting to be there. And then the market crashed, and people found themselves either unemployed or underemployed.
Mhm.
And the dual income, no kids had a real problem.
Mhm.
So what we ended up doing, and I always say this about a brand, you have to know what's at the heart of who you are, and then you also have to understand who are the people that you're going after. And you have to think about it in terms of the core expansion and growth elements. So we ended up doing a check evaluation. We took a look at a sampling of the receipts and checks from all the restaurant locations. We appended data
Mhm.
about those people. We did a segmentation. And while, yes, we saw that there were more, from a volume perspective, dinks that were coming in, that dropped off really quickly.
Mhm.
The other thing is their ticket size isn't that big. So, what really came to the forefront was the fact that it was still families. It was at the heart and soul of what 99 was for. And so we ended up putting in place a very different strategy where we took a look at, well, what way can 99 show up right now for families? And what I realized just from a cultural and psychological insight, which is, my background is in psychology, so I'm a bit of a geek about that, is when you have a kid that's gotten an A plus and you want to celebrate it with your family,
Mhm.
you're not going to not go out.
Mhm.
But if you celebrated it in a way that maybe you would have gone to that fancy restaurant, right, and really splurge, but one of you is unemployed or
Right.
you've gone down in your salary,
Right.
you're still going to find a place. And we wanted to make 99 that place where they could go. And so we actually started to introduce some touch points within the experience that had a nod to that higher end. We started introducing new meal ideas like salmon on a cedar plank, which is really hot back then, if you
Mm.
remember.
Oh yeah, totally.
But we didn't get rid of the core and the fan favorites. And so in the menu redesign, we made sure that it was easy to find the things that everybody always loved, but then also used web user experience design to guide the eye to the new things to invite exploration. And, we changed the music, the decor, but it wasn't a hard right. And so the core kept coming back. But it was the families that got us through. And I was really proud when the CMO kind of came to me at one point and said, thank you. The way that we did this really saved this company. And we were flat during that time period.
Oh
And you
sure.
saw Olive Garden and
All of them.
Chili's, they were
Yeah.
all going down by 20-25% year over
Yeah.
year.
Yeah. That's a really crucial perspective. You didn't take a hard right.
No.
You really looked at the data and you put yourself in the shoes of the consumer, who you thought they were, who they now were, and who they always had been,
Yes.
and dialed into that. I love the whole, we made sure all the great stuff that everybody liked was there, but we led them to other things that were new. So that kind of surprise and delight exploration was also encapsulated in that brand kind of rebrand or change.
Yeah, you want to, think about it as a person.
Right,
As a person, we want to evolve and grow over time.
right,
But that doesn't mean we're dumping who we
right,
are in
right,
our heart and our soul.
right.
But we are doing things a little bit different. We're experimenting. We're showing up in different rooms. We're having conversations with different people. Brands are the same thing.
Yeah.
And to your point about like thinking about putting myself in the shoes of others, that is critical, the humanity that's involved in this. I think it's often forgotten because it's easy for us to look at spreadsheets and
Hmm.
losses and gains realized and to put people and feelings and emotions and things that are really messy and unmeasurable
Yeah.
into a format that feels controlled.
Right.
But the reality is, if we knew all of the variables to put into a marketing prediction engine, then frankly, this world would look very, very different. And we don't.
Yeah.
We
We
just don't
don't.
have an ability
Yeah.
to measure all that. So we got to
Yeah.
bring ourselves and our humanity and our empathy to the table too.
So let's talk about a couple of brands who have recently had some problems at the top. Nestle, today I saw their CEO replaced because an inappropriate relationship with a direct subordinate. And then of course the whole the whole Coldplay, fallout. Like, how is it affecting those brands, good, bad, indifferent? What do you think the public thinks of that? And also internally, how do they control the messaging around it and make it,
Yeah.
I mean, spin it, like how do you spin those things in a way that doesn't kill you?
So I think it is unfortunate that we live in a world where these high paid executives think that things can be secret.
Yeah.
And it's almost going back to basic core values of how do I live my life and make decisions, because it's not just for me, it's also for my company. And
Yeah.
remember, a company is made up of a whole bunch of employees who
Yeah.
have mortgages
And
and
families and
families. And
kid.
so when they do one thing that then tanks the valuation or tanks the stock prices,
Yeah.
it's really devastating to the people that they are meant to lead and guide forward. Um, I found it interesting that at least Nestle had a plan.
Hmm.
So something happened, it was revealed, they came out right away. They did it on a Sunday
Hmm.
or a Monday, like a
Hmm.
holiday,
It was
right?
a
Where
holiday. Yeah.
yeah, in my head it was a Sunday because of the holiday.
Right.
And so they did it when it wasn't everybody on their phones looking at the news from a news cycle
Y-
perspective.
Yeah.
They didn't hide it, and they addressed it head on. And so I give them kudos for being ready for something like this. And I think that that's the biggest issue that we have, in corporate America, which is people react to crises after they happen. And when you do that, you're always late. So if
Hmm.
you take a look at the Coldplay debacle,
Yeah.
it took them a really long time to make any statement. And what ended up happening is people made fake statements
Yeah.
and took the story, and it became a meme, and it
Yeah.
became something that spread like wildfire.
Yeah.
Why? Because we want to hold leaders accountable.
Yeah.
We all know that they're being paid a
Yeah.
lot more than their employees. They
Yeah.
have to be held to a higher standard.
Yeah.
And so I think that both still miss the mark in a sense, though, because there isn't really any humanity or emotion involved in any of their responses, right? And even if you say I'm sorry, it's kind of like,
Yeah. All right.
when my toddlers would say I'm sorry because they wanted to get out of timeout. Like
Right.
that's what it feels like
Yeah.
to me.
Completely.
Yeah, and so I'm not sure it's a spin. I think it's about showing up authentically, and really trying to make amends and stating that publicly, because the world's going to ask that of you anyway. So you might as well lead with that in a response to a crisis like that.
Yeah. I think it brings me to the questions around AI and
Oh yeah,
consumer experience, right? So how are we going to use AI in a way that makes things better, faster, analyzes data, but where do we make sure that there's a human in the loop? I know you've done things with Progressive Insurance and the Flow chatbot, policy advocates for other companies. Like, where do you draw that line? Which of
yeah.
the metrics prove value, and then you need to bring in make sure a human is actually in there. So how do you integrate AI into consumer experience?
It's a great question because everybody is rushing to
Yeah,
adopt AI into their organizations.
yeah,
And what I found is that more often than not, there's not a strategy.
yeah.
And there are phases of adoption. The easiest and lowest hanging fruit is to have greater efficiency, to improve productivity, and typically that arrives in the form of, as you said, able to use AI to do data analysis, being able to look at astronomically more volume of data and
Hmm.
analyze it and find trends in a shorter period of time, or in the researching, analysis, and then response of the written word. Those are the two places that seem to be catching adoption. We're playing around with creative elements. We're playing around with video.
Mm-hmm.
That's definitely happening, although it's still very uncanny.
Mm-hmm.
And so what I would say is similar to Cracker Barrel. How does AI help your brand show up? How
Mm-hmm.
does it help preserve the value proposition that you've always been able to provide to your audiences? And how does it potentially improve it so that it's actually going to be a point of differentiation for you? And again, it brings bringing humans into it. So one of the projects that Coologee is working on is really to help extremely seasoned policy experts uh, bring their brain to the
Mm-hmm.
forefront more.
Mm-hmm.
And the process has been a lot of workshops, a lot of ideation, iteration on use cases, so that we can start to identify, well, what is it that's going to help the most? And most importantly, not take away the value contribution that your people are providing. And I think that that's something that can be quickly forgotten, which is, hey, AI is going to impact the way your team members, your leaders feel when they come to work. Now,
Mm-hmm.
one, because it's new and they don't feel comfortable with it. So the thing that they were really good at uh, is being threatened because now they're being asked to do something that they're not. And a lot of them are senior, and it doesn't feel good when you're in that situation.
Yeah.
The other problem is some of the pitfalls of AI, right? So it's only
Yeah.
as good as the information that you feed it.
Oh yeah.
So the biases that we have in
Yeah.
our interactions, our communications, our data sets
Yeah.
will just explode.
Yeah.
And then there's another really interesting thing, which is the AI hallucination.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
It makes
Yeah.
stuff up. It
Yeah.
makes stuff up. And so when you think about building a prototype, bringing a product to market, you have to make sure that there's accountability and auditability. Because without those two things, it's going to go off the rails really fast. And in fact, and I can't remember which CEO was playing around with this, but I was reading a case study about the adoption of AI, and the CEO is within a tech company and was playing around with AI to use it in order to do responses. And they did an A/B test, which I thought was perfect and brilliant because I'm a dork for A/B tests. And so
Yeah.
they had the CEO write his own
Yeah.
responses and send them out.
Yeah.
And then he also trained an AI bot to do it for him.
Yeah.
And what was interesting is that people could tell.
Yeah.
And when that happens, trust around a leader, trust around a brand erodes really quickly. We still want to connect with humans, and
Hmm.
AI cannot take away from that.
Yeah. I think there's the old saying, crap in, crap out, right?
100%.
And when you're building these chat bots and creating these, even virtual boards, right? That you can create now to answer questions and kind of do point counterpoint in decision making, you still have to come in and say, is it really what we think?
Yeah, and I
We
think
fed it all the data, but did it come up with its own conclusion and not in the brand promise, or not adhering to what we actually believe as a company or as a brand? That oversight is so necessary versus just like we do it and we just slap it out there.
100%. And the way I think about it too, if you're a manager within an organization that has customer service or some kind of support,
Yeah.
you kind of get this already
Yeah.
because you can train frontline people. They can be working for 6 months. They're going to answer 80% of the questions that come in.
Yeah.
I think AI can do that too,
Yeah.
right? And there is efficiencies in that.
Yeah.
Um, but then there's the 20%, right?
Yeah.
Where something doesn't fit the mold.
Yeah.
It's not the norm.
Yeah.
And you have to bring people in to figure out what's the right way to go because we're all fearful of the moment that AI will be sentient, but it's not yet.
No.
So to be a broken record, I'm coming back to humanity and empathy, right? AI is not going to be able to navigate that complexity as well as a truly talented leader manager, right? So we got to remember as brands that when somebody says, I want to talk to a manager, we have to have those in place and they have to have the resources in order to answer the questions.
And the training to actually do it and not just send them down because we've all been on that customer service rabbit hole. Was this helpful? No, it wasn't. I told you 10 times it wasn't helpful and you keep giving me the same answer. Give me someone. They're like, oh, can we help you with that again? It's just like you're like, no, no. It's
Well, Cindy, that's really important, right? Because you're talking about the difference between scripted and unscripted help.
yeah, yeah,
And for better or worse, AI is still scripted.
yeah, completely. Completely. And it lacks the emotion side of it, right? It doesn't really understand my frustration. When you
100%.
keep asking me the same thing over again and give me the same answer. Hi, that's not, this is like the definition of insanity, right?
It is. It is. I mean, think back to a time when you were really upset as a kid and you went to a parent and they hugged you. You didn't say anything.
Right,
And all of a sudden, like the tears are coming out and you purge. They didn't do anything except show a moment of care.
right.
And we can do that for the folks that we serve, the folks that work with us. Um, but we need to put time against it.
Yeah,
And again, it's one of those variables that don't fit well in a spreadsheet. So
yeah.
it's often overlooked.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. I'm going to switch topics for a second to kind of fractional CMO work and playbook. So I know you kind of just you parachute in to companies who may be lacking marketing leadership or may have lost somebody or they need to get back on track. What do you actually do when you come in with people and processes and tech to help drive both acquisition and retention? So how do you establish those kind of right decisions, operating cadence, budget? Like, what's the first thing that you actually do? I don't expect you to go through the 90 days, but what are the
No.
kind of like five things that, come to mind that are imperative you have tos?
I mean, the first and foremost is listen. Just like any 90-day plan, you just have to do it in an accelerated way. So you listen for what the executive leadership wants. You listen for what the folks that are there are able to do. 9 times out of 10, they know they want to do something different, but they haven't been set up to be successful. And so when I come in, I think, all right, I want to make sure that at whatever we do, whether it's a rebrand, new campaign launch, a restructuring, retraining, new vendor partners, that we are simultaneously going to make an improvement that within 6 to 12 months has a meaningful in market benefit to them, but also do so in a way where people can come to work and feel good.
Yeah.
So I always say that my job, I'm successful in my job if I've been able to deal with problems and challenges and barriers that the existing teams have not been able to solve for. Um, and it's again done with humanity and done with a respect for the knowledge that's there and done with an understanding that I'm going to be some kind of interim role.
Mhm. Right.
In all likelihood, they will stay.
Yeah.
And you can't come in and crash around and destroy everything like the
Oh,
Hulk
yeah.
because you have to make sure you're building something that will persevere. And that requires making sure that people want to stay and that they can see themselves growing and succeeding within the organization. But the real key for the fractional CMO role is that you don't have a lot of time.
Yeah.
And so a lot of the work that I do and the processes I've had and workshops that I do are meant to accelerate. And I'm really proud that we're able to get new brands, new campaigns in market in 6 months. That's including everything,
Yeah. That's fast.
positioning,
Yeah.
messaging,
That's super
new
fast.
creative platforms, websites, lead acquisition, MarTech, integration, training of frontlines. Now, I'm not promising that we do it for the entire national footprint if it's a national brand. It's always in
Right.
a pilot test
Right. Controlled. Yeah.
situation.
Right.
But I would advocate that anyway, because I'm coming in and doing major change. And to the
Right.
theme of no hard rights,
Right.
you got to keep on doing business as usual until you've proven out the new thing is going to perform in the way you want it to.
Kat, this has been a great conversation. I know we could go on for many, many, many hours. How do people get a hold of you if they want to work with you? What's the best way?
Sure. They can visit my website. It's coologee.com, COOLOGEE reinventing.com, and we have some forums there and they can contact us. I'm the one that's looking at all of them. So it's me. And if I haven't gotten back to you, do it again. I sometimes I'm an ADHD leader, so bear with me.
Awesome, Kat. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Cynthia. Pleasure talking with you.